Live now.
Okay, I call this meeting to order at 5 o'clock p.m. on September. Just kidding. October 23rd. Thank you. 2025. Okay. First meeting item is approval of the minutes for September 25th, 2025. I'll give you a little bit of
Talk about what happened at that point.
Yeah. So this has been about 5 or 6 years ago now that we started doing this. I believe that data that we took a look at was 2018, 2019 for the first time, and then 2020 for the second time we did it. And what we did was we developed a relative risk index, basically, that looks at the relative risk of certain populations relative to another, because we're comparing that to their population. And we found that, like Dr. Berger said, Black Wichitans were 12 times more likely, based on their relative population, to receive a ticket for a child restraint. And they separate that between under 4 years old and 7 years old. So for one of those two student tickets, there's a more likely chance that some of these tickets they're Black Wichitan versus they're white Wichitan. So we come up with a table, right, of all the things in one column for relative risk of that specific citation. The problem is that, it's not necessarily causal. We can't determine anything causal based on that. And so, especially when we use census data as our baseline. So From what I understand, some people basically took this information and said, see, look, Wichita police like to ticket, I'm strawman, like to ticket Black Wichitans more for these specific tickets, right? Instead of the fact that there could be many other causes that for that disparity and relative risk for that ticket. And so when the chief said, hey, this news article came out, it says that your work proves that there's racial profiling going on. We wanted to compensate. If you read the actual report, it's the opposite. We said this doesn't prove, it doesn't show that any racial profiling is going on, that we would need to construct a different type of method to see if that were the case in the WPD. And so at Chief Sullivan's request, we came down here 5 years later just to make sure that we weren't being misinterpreted or misquoted. And the Dr. Berzer's name, I was a graduate student at the time, so I can just claim ignorance, but Dr. Berzer's name wasn't in the newspaper being, the researcher that proved the racial profiling that's going on in the reports of the opposite. So.
And when you get into this kind of work, when you develop a benchmark, it's very complex, and there's a number of ways you can do it. And a way that typically we just don't do it is just comparing back to census data again, because that only gives us how many people live in a certain community. It doesn't give us a driving population. That would be much better demographic or much better statistic for us to have, how many folks are actually driving and what's their race. And so, we can do what we call field observations to develop our own benchmark, where we observe traffic patterns in randomly selected areas. That's costly and time consuming on part of the research team. We can look at traffic collision data, which there's some evidence that supports using that, because you get up every morning and you go out, you don't expect to get an accident, they're random things. And so we can get some baseline if we look at traffic collision data over time. And then there's internal benchmarking that can be done within the police department, where you look at like situated officers and compare their patterns and look to see if there's anything that has red flags that are involved. And that's another process that, is fairly complex. But, when we start talking about benchmarks, it'd be nice to do a full scale study where we develop our benchmarks. Either we look at collision data and we can get some idea there. And if we would do this work, that's probably what we would recommend doing in the future, is looking at traffic collision data. And we can answer any questions. We just mainly wanted to clear that up because we heard that. And in our technical reports, we do, in the appendix, we do a couple of pages, cautioning the reader that because we're using census data, that, we can't really say that this is a cause of bias-based policing is occurring here.
Are there any questions for Dr. Berzer or Dr. Skinner at this time?
Yes, did you gather this data from certain areas of the city?
This would be citation data. So the police department, when they reached out to us, they said, can you take a look at 2 years, and then later on, I think it was 3 years of citation data. And so it's wherever folks got tickets at across the entire city. So, if we, in benchmarking, if we look at, for example, if we benchmark from collision data, we can do that for an entire community, or we can do it in certain areas and to develop those benchmarks.
Citations in a certain area or just
Citywide. Citywide.
What we did break it down by zip code was how.
Okay, so is there a certain zip code where you have the racial profiling saying?
There's certain zip codes that persons were more likely, or I should say there were certain zip codes that persons of color were more likely getting citations compared to other zip codes.
But those are typically the zip codes that have higher population.
Can I spread those zip codes out? Are they like low to
67214 was one of them. And I had to look at the technical report for the others, but they were, fairly dispersed.
Thank you. Appreciate you both coming down. I think the issue, at least I'll speak for just myself, that we've had is how your study has been used in speaking to us, is that the way it's been presented as, hey, Dr. Berger says census data isn't reliable, can't use it. We don't have any bias policing, we're doing great. And so I think I'm excited to hear that there are benchmarks that could be developed? Because I think that's the question that we're trying to get at, is if looking at, okay, when you census data, it shows a clear bias, which I think is where you see those media pieces that it came from.
Yes.
But as it stands now, there does not seem to be a metric, at least from my perspective, that WPD is using to say, okay, maybe we do have a problem here. And that work is now 5 years ago, and we're here in 2025, almost the end of 2025, with nothing to say, okay, now this is the way that we can do it, where we have to do these benchmark establishments.
Correct. Yes.
So you guys do believe there is racial profiling here in this point?
I can't say that right now because I don't have the data. We have to develop benchmark our benchmarks to get a more effective benchmark that's more valid, and then take a look at it to see.
Do you believe that drivers' behavior has a lot to do with also the way you drive?
Could very well be. Yeah.
Too loud.
Well, that's a possibility. I don't know until we have benchmarks established and that we can measure.
Because I've never been racial profile. Never. So it's hard for me to understand where you're coming from.
I think, part of the issue too is there's a perception, and mere perception can go a long way with many, in particular person of color in our community, because there's a history there, obviously. And so, I think oftentimes, I would get calls when I was doing this work, this research, from citizens, and they would start telling me they were racially profiled, and then, come to find out they just had a bad experience with a police officer. And so they were using me as a venting, and I would refer them to, the department wherever it happened to take place at, to contact them.
But a lot of people, when they're caught in the wrong, first thing they're going to say is, "Oh, racial." I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah, I wish that word was just strictly because they're always going to do that. So it's really hard to understand how true your data is. Not saying that your data is not correct, but the people also, because they'll throw that word out. Go again. Here we go again. Racial this, racial that. So that's movement. It's just hard. It's never happened. I'm from a big city. I moved here. You got to drive correct all the time or whatever, but I'm just,
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to really articulate that and understand that. So maybe it is. I think the data needs to be more concrete.
Yeah, Dr. Berto, you made a comment about there's some socioeconomic conversations to be had. Were you relating to the tickets with the children in the seats
Yes.
and not having access potentially
Right.
to the
That's right. So what happened after that, when we presented the data to the chief, he said, we told him we think these are probably socioeconomic issues where they can't afford a child seat. And so the chief, at the time it was, we got with Deputy Chief Wanda Gibbons and told her to apply for a micro grant. And so they did, and they got a number of child seats in, and we set up this program to where if a citizen in certain zip codes got stopped for not having a child restraint, they would give them a voucher to go down to 5th grade, revise, they would be trained on them. And then what we did is drop off a survey at the 3 service stations that were contracted to do the work. And when the citizen went in, we had them do kind of a survey about their experience with the police department. And let me tell you, when we give the report back to the department at that time, they were very positive. Citizens loved it, and they said, "We should ever do more of this." And the number one reason they cited in the first place was that socioeconomic. They couldn't afford it. If you looked at the price of child restraint seats, they're expensive.
Are there any further questions? How receptive has the police department been with the data presented?
Tell you, I've found the police department very receptive to the data. It wouldn't be down here if they weren't, because they're very concerned. And I don't think, anyone, if there's bias-based policing occurring, we want to identify that. I'm sure the police department wants to identify that, and citizens want to identify that and make sure it's good.
And I know the purpose here was for you to kind of clear up, clear it up, but Are there any recommendations that you would like to see come out of this board for the police department?
Well, yeah, so we met with Chief Sullivan recently and, we're thinking through, a study that we can have a more accurate measure. So that's kind of where we're at this point. Dr. Skinner and I will be putting, something together to get to the chief real soon.
Anything further?
Is there any information that we can give to the area, the zip codes that have this problem, where they can, I can inform them, hey, you do this, to make things better, so you don't.
Well, I think just have that communication with the police department. I think that's oftentimes we get in our silo and we don't communicate. That's a big issue. We need to get together with the police department, the community, and the police department to have that outreach.
Well, Dr. Berger, for being a former student to this moment now, and Dr. Skinner, I thank you both for your time. I don't believe that we have any further questions, but I believe that we do plan to bring you guys both back to continuously talk about the data, because this is definitely some data that I believe me and other board members would definitely love to stay up to date on this.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Prior to moving on to new business, agenda item number 3, are there any recommendations that the board has at this time that they would like to make?
I'm thinking about it. Do we need to make a recommendation that the police department continue conversation with Dr. Berger and as the details of that study are finalized, that the CRP is consulted and weigh in, or I don't know.
Sure, the last time we had Chief Sullivan here, and that was when we were at City Hall, he did say he had a commitment to that.
Right.
And it sounds like they're still in conversation. It may not hurt to make a recommendation, but I
Yeah.
believe that they are moving forward.
That's the advisory board.
I don't see an issue with that. I believe that the police department is already ready to be in contact with Dr. Berger and communication on this, but like Stephanie said, I don't think it hurts to make recommendations.
Formally make a motion to recommend that as the final details of Dr. Berger's study, that the department continue to work with them to identify and run out science-based policy. These practices.
Is there a second?
What was that motion? I'm sorry, I'm trying to type it. Did you write it or as you say it?
Sorry. Okay. Motion to recommend that the Wichita Police Department continue to work with Dr. Berger and study to root out and eliminate bias-based policing practices.
Is there a second?
I mean, I hear what you're saying, but the verbiage, because I don't think they can get rid of bias. Police is more informing on the practices, or better inform how Wichita Police policies within Wichita Police Department, maybe, or how the data speaks to practices of Wichita Police. Time to take a friendly amendment from the model.
Yes, and then the rephrased motion would be.
The second part of that was the last piece of what he said. What do you have down?
Can you speak louder, please?
The last piece of what he had that you wrote down that he said, what was it?
Continue to work with Dr. Berger to eliminate bias policing practices.
And you wanted to change it to work with Dr. Berger to
Be better informed on data that influence or speaks to
Well,
bias.
the motion hasn't been seconded at this time, so I believe it would fail if there's no second, and then you can make the adjustment to the amendment. So is there a second to the motion that was created by Josh? With there being no second, then the motion fails. Is there another motion that would like to be made? You have a motion that you? Nope.
Because that's when you can change it, right?
So at this time, you can change the motion
You're restating what Sarah's saying.
if you'd like to. Is there any other commentary or recommendations for this moment?
Did you ever say what percentage of racial profiling was in the zip codes? You know,
Not off the top of my head.
I don't think you'd say that there was racial profiling in specific zip codes, but I remember the overall statistic was that of all citations issued in the data that they studied, 20% were Black individuals versus, again, they don't like census data, but the comparison was to 12% Black, 12% of Wichita's population being Black.
All right, seeing no more further commentary, we'll move to agenda item number 3, new business. I'll give you a few moments to review over the cases on the back of your agenda. And then we'll come together for any cases that would like to be added to the list. I'll give you all a few more seconds here. All right, here as playing as chair, vice chair, and secretary, I think in honor of Faith, she would want 25 PSB 1600 to be moved as a use of force. I am a little interested in 25 PSB 1486 as only one of those is being sustained. But I
What
know
number did you say?
20, the last one,
Yeah,
1486. However, and before I move forward, real quick, so I know the complaint is most likely coming from a citizen, right? And then the internal investigation is that another like officer or supervisor reporting the.
Generally.
Okay, and so what would the external investigation include? External investigation, would that,
Someone from outside.
does that include citizens?
Yeah.
So what makes that different than a complaint?
Makes it different on what?
Than a complaint? What's the difference between a complaint and
Most of the time, a complaint is the same as an external investigation.
Okay.
So typically, a complaint, I shouldn't say typically. Generally, a complaint doesn't turn into an investigation. It's
theory, how it works, if you have a complaint and if there's something that needs to be investigated, it turns into an investigation.
Are there any others that anybody would like to add as we move into discussion? I know 1600 for sure.
1486 because of the severity of it.
So, go ahead. Okay. I would move that 25 PSB 1486 as well as 25 PSB 1600 get moved onto the list for further review.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All the opposed? Seeing no opposed, the motion stands that both those cases will be moved to the list for further review. All right, moving into line item number 4, board agenda. Under number 4, line item number 1, secretary report. Thankfully, I don't believe I have anything to report much. I guess the only thing I would report is that of course, we have the running list of cases that we will need to review and break down. We also have property and evidence, ICT 1, misdemeanor, and DB investigations as all policies that we want to review sometime throughout our time spaced out. So that's 4 policies that we would like to review. Also a reminder, just for calendar purposes, both the November meeting and the December meeting have been moved to the second Thursday of those months.
Okay. We need to see about moving the November meeting from here to City Hall, because the only room here available is that teeny tiny one.
Okay.
That's something that you guys have to discuss.
Okay.
and vote on.
Okay, so November,
November's
okay, so in November, this room is being used. So the only room that would be available is the room that we were in the very first time we moved to the Advanced Learning Library, or moving back to City Hall for that November meeting. Is there any suggestions or preferences?
I would prefer to move back to City Hall for good.
Oh,
Does anyone else like that idea? Or we haven't talked about that in a long time.
is it
I think the check's easier, it's cold here, it's harder to get to this area. So then, I think we do City Hall for November at least. But I would like to put that on discussion at some point.
So
Wherever
maybe,
we do that.
okay, so moving to City Hall in November and then maybe November.
That's the 13th.
That's a fantastic question.
Yes.
Yes.
The 11th of December.
I'm possibly going to miss both of those meetings. I don't have a town meeting the second Thursday of every month.
I'll count it December.
So I believe the consensus, do I need, does that need to be in form of
Needs to be a
motion? Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to move the November 13th CRB meeting to City Hall.
Second,
Second.
properly seconded. All in favor? Any against? The motion stands. And again, don't ask me those dates, I don't have those off the top of my head right now. I think that's all that the reports that I have for the secretary report. Are there any subcommittee? Excuse me, one last reminder in the secretary report. I don't know who all has RSVP'd or whatnot for tomorrow, but the board retreat is from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. or scheduled from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. 5, even better, or excuse me, 5 p.m. I believe it's here. Yes. Here tomorrow. And bring your blankets and extra coats and jackets.
Do you have any more information on what that is? I mean, I read the agenda, it's like 6 lines, it made no.
I think it was booked that long to ensure that everything was covered, but I don't anticipate that it was going to go that long. I could be wrong. My counterparts didn't let me know, so I don't have any information. I believe that was in the hands of Faith to plan and prepare. I think it was more so a opportunity to discuss the setup of the CRB, the bylaws, things of that nature. I don't know if there's any further information.
Have any more information on what you guys have given?
So it'll be a surprise.
What?
Lunch will be provided.
But we'll come with smiles on our faces, ready to learn.
Does anybody have a list of those who have registered, or do you have a list of those who are attending?
I was just gonna ask if there's only been like 3 people that have registered.
So, yeah, that was my question. If you guys are providing lunch, should we get a more accurate count?
We were just gonna do it based on 12 people, because I knew for sure one person wasn't coming. And so they are doing 12 people plus the presenter. So if there's extras, there's extras, is basically how we were going about.
Can you, I register, can you tell me if we're registered or not? Or
I don't have it, LaShonda has
special
all that.
register?
I guess who in this room,
I just accepted the invite,
I
I
don't
assume that's registering.
so who's not planning on attending tomorrow?
Okay, yeah, that's all.
This is from 11 to 5.
Yes.
In this room tomorrow. And I understand we all have jobs, and I'll have to leave early myself to get to my other employment. So I understand it, but I think it'll be a great opportunity for us to kind of set things a little bit more in stone for this board moving forward. So
That would be 1 and 2. So
it is,
I don't know, maybe I didn't do it right, I don't know.
no, but there's hope. Moving forward, are there any subcommittee updates from your?
So last month, there was a recommendation to reach out to the city council and ask for time with them to present what the CRB can do PowerPoint. I reached out to District Representative 5, JD Johnston. He said that would be a great idea, and he was gonna talk with his fellow council persons to determine whether that would actually be during a meeting, or they have, I don't remember what term he used, but like just random meetings that aren't actual city council meetings. And he will get back with me, he said, in the next month about that.
Okay.
And then no progress on the bylaws, because it seemed like we needed to have more information from the retreat prior to advancing that.
And I believe that is on the agenda for
Yeah.
tomorrow. Are there any questions for Stephanie?
I'll just provide an update that I spoke to District 6 at their meeting, was well received, and that I will probably be speaking to at least North Riverside in the next couple months as well.
At this time, moving into line item 4, subline item 3, board discussion and comments. I think before we move into executive session, this would be a little bit of a good time to finalize November's meeting, or just talk about some items that should go on that agenda. I know last month we talked about it looks like in November and December, we want to discuss the ICT-1 misdemeanor, ICT-1 policy, the misdemeanor policy, DB policy, as well as 25 PSV 1610, spaced out sometime between that. I can't remember which one correlates with the ICT-1 policy. But I know there's one policy that ties specifically with the case.
I think the DB policy is one that had a case attached to it.
As well. I thought so.
Let me see if I have anything
So are there any preferences on any cases that we would like to discuss? Or any policies that we would like to discuss, at least for the November meeting? (1610) is the complaint that officers were rude and failed to complete a thorough investigation on a domestic violence case, so that's the DV. Which Anna, didn't she bring forward?
There was a second case where we had asked if they were gonna, if the two were involved with the same officers, we could do them both, but
That was 1610.
okay, and then there's that second one, it's not in fact the same people, so we were just gonna talk about the DV policy and 1610. So we would go to DV for two cases or DV for one case, sometimes the one case.
I also see here that the misdemeanor ties into 24 PSP 5144, investigation into an officer committing a misdemeanor crime while off duty. I believe that's like misdemeanor policy, but I can't remember because that's Faith who brought forward the case and she's not here to speak on it. So, I mean, personally, I would be okay talking, Stephanie brought forward the 1610 case, and then we can also just tackle the DV policy case next month in November.
I have two that you said, we said we would review in November.
Oh, yes, please tell me.
25 PSP 3566, 25 PSP 2454.
We're looking at 66.
66 will be tonight. What's the other one?
2454.
2454. You remember what oh yes, we did get an email about 2454. I'd have to go back to the emails to see. There's a chance that we did say that that one would be in. But I don't think it'll hurt to add a second case. So I think we can do 25 PSP 1610 as well as 25 PSP 2454. And then we can also review the DV policy. And
And so December for ICT one misdemeanor, 24 PSP, good to be 44.
tentatively, yes, yes. There was, I'm doing my secretary duties now to get on myself. If that was, can you make that one more time?
For December,
Or the November.
under the DV policy, 25 PSP 1610 and 25 PSP 2454.
Okay. I will email the citizen about 2454. I will find that in my emails, and then I will also email.
Greg, you already invited the 24
I did.
board meeting to our November meeting. So you just follow.
So good.
And if you would like to be an assistant secretary, please let me know.
Do you want?
I'll hold my until our retreat tomorrow.
Then, since that's already taken care of, I will email you all the DV policy sometime soon in preparation for that meeting.
And, Greg, I did have a couple questions for loop closure, from our last meeting, and, there were 3 items, the non-emergent line.
Yes,
I don't remember where,
that
I can't remember your title, Mr. Cooley, detective officer, what, captain. So Captain Cooley, that and the clothing.
so I did take unless you want to speak about it, but I emailed back those citizens. The non-emergent lines have been put on a permanent hold
Okay.
from the police department. WPD is still reaching out to vendors to make the clothing possible.
Yeah.
So basically the story on that is we've looked and short of like a camping blanket or something, there's not a lot of cost effective items to put one in every car. We found solutions to buy 10, but now then 10 officers have to be available to bring you a piece of clothing, and we wind up with the same situation we have with EMS, would have to bring a blanket. So just today, in another meeting, I sent it out again to, hey, we have people that work with the hospital, the jail, our homeless team, to just bring back ideas. There's gotta be some piece of something out there that it may end up just being a hospital gown, I don't know, but.
Thank you for continuing to work on that and provide community people you come in contact with. The other one was, we had public comment last month, and there was a note that we misspelled Wichita on the public PSB website. I'm not sure who's the webmaster and was able to address that.
Probably didn't get changed.
What was that? I'm sorry.
It probably didn't get changed because I forgot to take that back. So.
I'm sure that Vincent could tell us where it was, if it would be easier to locate that
I will
page.
follow up after the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Any further?
I am done, thank you.
No, you're good. No, I was just making sure we got 1, 2, 3. For sake of the list, if it's okay with the board, I also consider moving 22 PSB 7076 to the discussion for next month. It's the complaint that an officer departed from the truth, and we just wanted to know why it took 3 years. That's also the oldest case on the list. So I presume, yes here, but I presume that Captain Cooley can give us that brief summary.
That would be 3 cases in November
Yeah.
and 1 policy or 2 policies?
Yes, 2 policies. 1 policy. What's the second policy?
Actually, 2 policies.
Oh, you said in December?
Yeah.
November and December, how much?
I don't know about December.
Okay, so this is all for November, we're looking at 3 cases and
1 policy.
1 policy. That seems doable. I just wanna make sure we don't add too much.
Yeah, that's the only one I wanted to add, with that being the oldest case. Just shedding a little bit light on why a case like that might have taken that long. Is there any other? Sorry, again, doing secretary, 1 second. Is there any other discussion that the board would like to have at this time before we move into executive session? And did you catch all of those for
The last case was 24 PSB 2077?
22, the last case that I just?
Yes.
22 PSB 7076.
Oh, I know.
What is it, 22?
22 PSP 7076.
Or just each year.
You might have a motion.
For, okay, yes. Okay, I move for the November meeting to be added to the agenda, the DB policy 25 PSB 2454, 25 PSB 1610, and 22 PSB 7076.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion carries.
Great.
Yes.
I did bring it up. Traffic stuff.
Oh, yes,
It's
prior
not-
to moving to executive session, I'll turn it over to Captain Cooley this time. to move.
Once I realized that it was another quarter, and it had already been sent out, so I apologize, didn't make the agenda, but here is the end of Q3 traffic data. The addition in this one is, well, the pages aren't numbered, but there is DUIs on the last map. So again, reds are the accidents, the red circles are accidents. And last map, this is a new map for you guys. The green is our DUIs. The other maps you should be familiar with, one's warning citations and one's actual citations for those circles. And then K42 and West Street, the 598 citations are still on there. That's because this is still the past year, so that we've talked about that and moving those traffic stops to one of the target locations, but that statistic is still there. It doesn't, it's not going to go wrong.
I'm seeing this right, that on the warnings map, there's a warning hotspot just in the smack middle of Benjamin Hills, Pleasant Valley on 25th, just on the road to 235. Sorry, it's the 21st in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and if you, never mind, I got my circles back. Yeah.
A citizen asked me on Tuesday, and I wanted to, I'm glad you brought this forward because I'm usually asked, have you seen an increase of citations decrease the amount of accidents we have? I know you presented that data some time ago, but just for the record, I wanted to go ahead and ask.
Yeah, so that's why we've created this strategy this year to further show the data that when you do have high accident locations outside of engineering, unfortunately, citations is what drives the number of accidents down.
If I remember right, that data presented to us from May of last year, May of this year with this traffic safety strategy, there was a 6% increase in accidents.
6% increase.
That is my recollection of the data.
What would qualify as DUI hotspot? Is there a number of citation, number of DUI pullovers?
Yes, what the actual math is they use, I'd have to get a hold of our crime analyst. Do you know it? Yeah, there's a formula that they use that makes it a hotspot, and it's all relative to how many tickets were wrote here compared to here. Significant difference, thus makes it a hotspot.
Okay,
And they have figured out, because we do the same thing with crime, whether it's property crime or violent crime. And if you plot every crime or every ticket, there's just circles all over. So at some point you have to draw the line to say there's a difference here, and it becomes a hotspot. But what they use is their mathematical difference. I'd have to get.
There's just a lot all over the city. I don't know how you guys are keeping up.
We don't.
You can't answer.
We don't. Yeah, I mean that's the answer.
I would be interested in that formula as well. Yeah.
Are there any further questions for Captain Cooley at this time? I'm so sorry. This whole time I have not invited the citizens that have any comments to say anything. Is this?
Yeah.
Did you have something that you want to? No, okay. Okay. Anybody want to say anything at this time? Okay. Any further questions, comments?
Can we just make sure this is a standing item on our agendas quarterly, so 3 months from now?
I believe it is. I just, fair.
Tomorrow, because I think that's one of the things we talk about is like an outline or timeline of when we move things, so.
Yeah.
Don't lose the ways.
All right, well, at this time, I move that the Citizens Review Board recess into executive session for 15 minutes to review information relating to PSP cases 25 PSP 3567 as well as 25 PSP 3566 pursuant to KSA 75-4319 B2. The executive, to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel. The executive session is required to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual. Is there a second? Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the executive session will begin at 5:53 PM and end at 6 oh, no, excuse me, 6:08, thank you. The meeting will resume in this room.
your video is live, your audience is live.
Once they open the doors, they make it.
And it's just a motion.
The same thing again, we'll just go through the whole thing again.
I'll read the. Okay. Okay, coming out of executive session, I move that the Citizens Review Board recess back into executive session for 30 minutes to review information related to both PSP cases 25 PSP 3567 as well as 25 PSP 3566 pursuant to KSA 75-43192. To discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel, the executive session is required to protect the privacy interests of an identifiable individual. The executive session will begin at 6:10 p.m. and end at 6:40 p.m. The meeting will resume here in this room. Excuse me, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I'm gonna have this.
Alright, your audio and video is live, and I'll open the doors for you. Come on in.
I was trying to keep my 30 minutes. Tomorrow, I was still trying to keep like 30 minutes, but. Okay, we have. We returned from executive session. No binding action was taken by the board. And at this time, I move to adjourn the meeting at 6:41 PM. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the board has adjourned and will reconvene on at City Hall.